Welcome back to New Testament Greek class. We're ready for Ephod chapter 4, lesson 4 I should say, and we'll be learning nouns. So we've learned, spent our first two chapters learning about verbs and verbal endings, and now we need to learn about nouns and noun endings, because Greek is an inflected language, which means that the form of the word determines use. So there is some inflection in English. So, for example, we say one boy, two boys. So we change the spelling of the word to show that this is plural. We also have irregulars. So we have child. The plural of child is not childs, but children. So, and also we have goose, and then we have geese. And so we have one kind of change to our nouns that covers almost everything. This nice regular ending, boy, boys. And then we have a few irregular case endings. But we don't change as much as Greek does. Greek changes based on a case system, which you can still see a little bit in English pronouns. And so here are the four cases that we're going to learn in Greek. The nominative, the genitive, the dative, and the accusative. And so our words are going to change their spelling based on what task they are performing grammatically. So here's what you need to know about each of these cases. The nominative indicates the subject of the verb. So from the personal pronoun, it's I, or if it's second person, it's you, or if it's third person, it's he. Okay? Genitive, we're going to translate this with of. That's all I want you to learn about it for now. We could say a lot more about what the genitive is doing and the history of it and whatnot. But all you need to know is that when you see a genitive noun, translate it with of. So that could be of me, which we can also say is my, right? And you could say, of you, of him, that is your or his. Okay? We're just going to learn it with that of. Genitive and of. Likewise, the dative is going to show us the indirect object. So we're going to translate that with to or for, typically. To me or for me, or again in the second person, to you, to him. And then the accusative serves as the direct object of a verb that takes a direct object, called transitive verbs, verbs that take a direct object. So that's me, or you, or him in the third person. So clearly, you would not say in English, me go to the store today. That sounds wrong to you. You know it has to be I. That's because you know you need a nominative to be the subject of the sentence. You don't say give it to I, because you need a dative for the indirect object. You need to say give it to me. You don't say he hit I, because you know that you need an accusative for the direct object. He hit me, right? So we do have this a little bit in English, but pretty much just with the pronouns now, that we change them for case. Change the spelling of our words for case. But Greek does it for all nouns. And there are different declensions, and so now we're looking at Ephod on page 16. There are different declensions, three basic types of declension, and we're going to learn today the first declension, most of which are feminine nouns. And so I'm first going to show you, so I'm over now on page 19. First going to show you the feminine definite article. That is, that's the word the. Okay? There's no indefinite article in Greek. There's no word for a. They only have the word the. So there's no a dog. There's just the dog or dog. And we'll get into the usage of how you're going to translate that. And Ephod has some nice comments on that on pages 16 and 17. You can read through his explanation of how that works. But the forms that you need to memorize, and so this whole chart, of course, needs to be a flashcard that you learn very, very well. And so the nominative singular for feminine words, so just like French or German or Spanish, Greek has masculine and feminine words, and it also, like German, has neuter words. But today we're just doing feminine words. And so this is how you say the for nominative singular. Hey. Genitive, tes. Dative singular, te. And note that it has a iota subscript. That's part of its spelling. So watch out for that on a quiz. And the accusative singular, tain. And then in the plural, high, tone, tis, tas. Note the accent is this kind of inside-out accent with there are no accents on the nominative, but accusatives, the accusative takes the acute accent, and then the genitive and dative here in the middle, they take the circumflex accent. You should also learn those accents. So that's how you say the word the. So in the nominative singular, genitive singular, hey, tes, te, tain, high tone, tis, tas. Just need to memorize that, repeat it a billion times until if your mom comes in and wakes you up at 2 o'clock in the morning and says, give me the forms of the feminine definite article, you can just say, hey, tes, te, tain, high tone, tis, tas. Okay, so I said nouns are going to change their endings, change their spelling, based on what they're doing in the sentence, based on their case. And so how are they going to change? Well, let's take a look first just at the plural. The endings in the plural for these feminine nouns of the first declension, I, own, ice, os. Well, that's just exactly the same as the endings for the definite article, isn't it? High tone, tis, tas. So that's nice. That's nice. Many nouns of the first declension also have the exact same letters being used there for their endings as the definite article. Hey, tes, te, tain. So they've got these endings a, ace, a, ain. And again, note that dative singular has a iota subscript. But then there are some that replace the eta with an alpha. So they get a, os, a, on. And there are some that take this inside-out pattern with alpha in the nominative and accusative. A, ace, a, on. Well, which are which? Well, he tells you about that on page 16. So if you look at 16 part B, there are 3 basic types of first declension feminine nouns. They will be designated here as the phone type, the cardia type, and the doxa type. To find the stem of the noun, the nominative singular ending is removed, so take off the eta or the alpha. If the noun stem ends in epsilon, iota, or rho, then use the cardia type. If the noun stem ends in a double consonant, that is zeta, xi, or psi, or a double sigma, which counts as a guttural in this, as a double consonant in this case, then you're going to use the doxa type. And almost everything else follows the phone type. Okay. So if you look at page 18, the phone type, this is the most common. There's your endings again, a, ace, a, ain. A, ace, a, ain. We're not bothering to learn the vocative there. He gives you a little statement about the vocative. It's very rarely used, and just when you speak directly to someone. And it's basically the same as the nominative, so you won't find that in any of our quizzes. On the top of page 19, the cardia type. So again, that's if the stem ends in epsilon, iota, or rho, then they get alphas. A, os, a, on. And then if you have double consonants, you get the inside-out pattern. Like doxa, you get a, ace, a, on. Okay, so there on the bottom of page 19, you see the full declension. So how do you say the sound or the voice? Hey, phone. Of the voice, tes, phones, genitive. To the voice, that'd be dative, te, phone. And the accusative, tain, phonane. How do you say, let's do the plural with cardia. How do you say the hearts? High cardiae. How do you say of the hearts? Tone cardion. How do you say to the hearts? Tis cardiais. And how do you say the hearts as a direct object? tas kardias. And then again, the doxa type. Hey doxa, tes doxes, te doxe, tain doxon, hi doxai, ton doxon, tais doxais, tas doxos. Okay, and notice what I'm trying to do with the accent when reading Greek is I just try to give the English stress accent where the word in Greek has received its accent. So again, look at hi doxai. Let's type these out here so we can see them a little better. Hi, whoops, doxai, as opposed to the genitive, which is going to be tone dox, whoops, own. So the accent changes positions, and we're going to look at noun accent here in a moment. But so when I read this one, I want to say hi doxai and keep the accent where that accent mark is. Over here, the accent mark is on the last syllable, so I'll say tone doxon. Hi doxai, tone doxon. Hi doxai, tone doxon. So try to keep that straight when you're reading it out loud. Okay, noun accent on page 20. The general rule for noun accent is there is no general rule to determine where the accent will fall on a noun. The position of the accent must be learned with the word. So verb accent was completely regular. It's based on is the last syllable long or short. If it's short, move it back 3. If it's long, move it back 2. Noun accent, you have to know where it starts. You have to know where it starts in the vocabulary. So you should, and that's why it's important to pronounce these right. So because if you just pronounce it correctly in the nominative singular, then you'll remember where that accent is. The general rule, now I'm back on page 24A2. The general rule for accentuation in noun declension is that the accent of a noun will remain where it was on the nominative singular as far as that's possible. In part 3, usually the nominative and accusative, singular and plural, do not take a circumflex accent on the ultima, even if the ultima is long and to be accented. Okay. In part B, here's the specific rule for the first declension. In the first declension, the genitive plural is accented with a circumflex on the ultima, no matter where the accent was in the nominative singular. Okay. So pretty simple accent rules for the first declension. Are accents the most important things in the world? No, but especially in especially in paradigm forms. Like when I give you a quiz on hey, taste, tay, tain, high tone, tis, tas, I will put, if I do a matching for that, I'll probably put one in wrong like this. And she'll have to know, oh, it's not taste. No, that gets a circumflex in the genitive singular. So yeah, you should learn them. You should definitely learn those accents and be able to, especially in the paradigms. Make sure you learn the accents as part of the flashcards you make. Okay. Word order on the bottom of page 20. No set rule can be given for word order in Greek. Generally speaking, it is similar to that of English sentences. Usually the word or words to be emphasized or placed first, and the components, subject, verb, object, etc. of the sentences can be readily recognized by the distinctive endings. A noun in the genitive case is usually placed immediately after the noun to which it is attached, and one must be careful not to rearrange genitive phrases in Greek sentences. Okay. We'll get more into that. We're going to do a second video here on the translations and how I want you to do them going forward. But that's just to note that word order in Greek is much more flexible than English. English is a positional language. Oops, switch back to English here. Paul kicks Tom. It's a completely different meaning if I rearrange the position of the words. Tom kicks Paul. It's not that way in well, we need to use girls' names because we only know feminine endings here. So let's say Sally kicks Jill. And so if I switch that around, Jill kicks Sally, completely different meaning. But now let's add some Greek endings to these words. So we're going to do Sally A kicks Jill on. Okay. And then I'll have Jill on kicks Sally A. So A, that's my accusative, that's my nominative ending. Sally is the subject of the verb. I know because she's got that nominative ending. Jill is the direct object. She's the one receiving the action. How do I know? She's got an accusative ending. So this next sentence, Jill on kicks Sally A, Sally A kicks Jill on, these sentences mean the exact same thing in Greek. The position of the words does not matter. It matters that Jill on has this accusative ending. She's the subject. The object. Jill is the one getting kicked in both sentences. Sally is the one doing the kicking in both sentences because she is the nominative ending. She's the subject. Okay. Let's run through the vocabulary briefly on page 21, just so you can have it pronounced. Hey agape, love, and note where I'm pronouncing the accent. Hey hamartia, sin. Hey arche, beginning. Hey basileia, kingdom. Hey doxa, glory. Hey arene, peace. Hey exousia, authority. Hey zoe, life. Hey hemera, day. Hey cardia, heart. Hey kephale, head. Hey Sophia, wisdom. Hey phone, voice or sound. Hey hora, hour. And you should, when you make your cards, so take hey agape, you should indeed write hey agape. Oops. Hey agape. You should write it with the definite article. That'll help you remember that this word is feminine. Because there will be there'll be exceptions to where you'll have endings that look feminine with a masculine noun or something. So learn it with the definite article, learn it with the accent. Make up those flashcards for your vocabulary. Make up the flashcards for the definite article and for the different endings of the first declension. And when you've had a day or so to get the vocabulary and the forms down, watch the next video on translations. And we'll start to work through the chapter 4 and work through the chapter 4 translations. So that's going to be a two-part thing. I should explain that more carefully. When you've had a day or two to learn your vocabulary and your forms from this lesson and review vocabulary and forms from lessons 2 and 3, begin watching the video on how to translate a Greek sentence. And then that'll show you how I want you to do that. And then you can pause the video, complete all the work for the translations in chapter 4, then go back and start the video, do your corrections, and then you'll actually email me a photo of your work on those sentences. So that's what's coming up next, but that'll be in the next video.